devices. So if we have the ability to own our data, and we have the ability to claw back that data when the user is no longer part of the organization, that is narrowing the threat landscape or the possibility that something's going to go wrong by quite a large amount. So selective wipe and full factory reset ultimately are the two options that are available for us in the Intune management system. And then to round it off, we have Microsoft's RMS, which is Rights Management Services. So from an enterprise mobility perspective, rights management services, why does it count? Well, it counts because depending on the organization, we might have certain capabilities that we want to apply across certain types of documents that are sent internally within the organization as well as sent outside of the organization. So historically speaking, once a document has left your email domain, it is no longer within your control. That document can be forwarded, it can be cut, or information can be cut out of it and pasted into other places. It can be printed, it can be used for nefarious purposes, and all sorts of things can go wrong. Now, if you're a multi-billion-dollar company and somebody, the wrong person, gets hold of your payroll information, that could possibly be quite a large embarrassment for the organization, because those bits and pieces of information are typically kept very close to an organization's chest. Again, if you're the kind of company that might have, engineering secrets, maybe there's some intellectual property that is embedded into certain types of documentation and that has cost you millions that you've developed over many years, you really don't want that falling into the wrong hands. So rights management services is a neat way to apply permissions, access for documentation outside of your mail domain as well as internally in your mail domain across not only your mobile devices like our Android phones, our Windows phones, iOS phones, but also like Cornay's Surface over here and my super big monster.
Little mainframe stuff.
Yeah, I make the joke that I sell power to Eskom, but yeah, I do.
Just on the RMS component, who's heard of Target?
Target?
The
company,
the
shopping
US shopping,
they're like all
conglomerate. They like what's the one we've got here? Macro. They like Macro. Now I understand that the infrastructure was not correct, their data was not secured, they got hacked, and once again, it is credit card numbers all over the world, and it gets mined and sold on the black market. So these are the kind of things you need to look at when you look at and say, well, we've got to secure our information. This is where RMS comes in, and we'll show you a slide a little bit later around the RMS component that talks specifically around this.
And that specific hack, that was to the tune of 40 million records. Now, if you consider the price per record from a breach perspective of the American Department of Justice, the American government charges an organization for the breach, that's costing reputational damage, firstly, and secondly, the overall charge, it would have been in the tune of millions that they would have to pay for a fine, or at a fine, based on the fact that they didn't have an appropriate technology layer to apply to the fact that they work with sensitive data. So RMS, that's what it's for. So let's get to the first part. I discussed Azure Active Directory Premium. Now, obviously, we need a way to identify ourselves. We need a way to identify you. I need to know who you are. I need to know who you say. If you say you are this person, that you really are this person. And this kind of brings across the concept of hybrid identity. Okay, so as your agenda has pointed out, we're talking about hybrid identity. So, you may have heard of Active Directory, you probably have. So the first question I get asked quite often is, oh, well, this is a cloud-based Active Directory system. Does that mean it can replace my on-premise Active Directory system? Short answer is no. So what it is, and this is where the concept of hybrid identity comes in, is it's a cloud-based authentication mechanism. It does allow for synchronization of your user accounts from your on-premise environment into the cloud. What this gives you is it gives you the ability to be authenticated with whoever you are, wherever you are, from whatever you're working on, i.e. whatever device you're operating from. So in the example that your business building burns down, God forbid, you traditionally, if there was no DR situation, available, or rather once a DR situation has kicked off and there was no DR components available and the business could not continue its operational business as usual somewhere else, you would have had this situation where you would not be able to authenticate. So Azure Active Directory is a mirror of your Active Directory in the cloud. It's not a full feature set mirror, it has its limitations, but I venture a guess within a couple of years we will most likely say goodbye to the on-premises world and we'll focus 100% on cloud. So the first thing in terms of using not only Microsoft's Azure public cloud, but ultimately Office 365 and EMS is your identity. Your identity needs to live in the cloud, otherwise EMS is a cloud-focused technology. It's not going to work. So this is what this slide is all about. So basically what this slide describes is the kind of things that we can do. I mean, we can look after all of our online services from Microsoft, so CRM Dynamics, Office 365, I mentioned Intune as part of the EMS stack, and ultimately all of your mobile devices. And the great thing about this is when we start fleshing out Intune as a whole and we start considering what Intune allows us to do from a device management perspective, one of the important bits that I quite often get due to customers having enabled their organizations for things like bring your own device. There has been another sort of shift which you may have heard of, and the buzzword is called BUI, which is bring your own computer. Now, I used to work for an organization where they paid me a monthly rent for the use of my computer. So they didn't supply me with a machine. I brought my own laptop and they paid me a rental. So I took X amount of money, I went to go buy a laptop, and then whatever the monthly payment was on that laptop, they just paid me the monthly payment. And then if I was to leave the organization, obviously the laptop remains mine and they let go of the monthly payment. So the upshot of this means that there's no asset management requirement for products like that. They don't have to look after machines, they don't have to spec it, they don't have to fix it when it breaks, it's entirely your baby. But it tends to be a bit of a black hole, because if it's my machine, do I then join it to the domain? I can if I want to, but because it's mine, they can't really tell me to, right? So if that domain, or if that machine is not domain joined, how do you confirm that its security posture is the kind of posture that matches your security compliance as an organization? So the other thing is, how do you know that the Microsoft patches are up to date? You don't. How do you know it's even running Microsoft Windows? You don't know any of these things. It's kind of a, just close your eyes and hope for the best. And that, as you can imagine, is not the best way to run a security-focused IT business. So, Intune is going to give you that, and once your accounts are in the cloud and the Intune service agents are running on all your endpoints, you no longer have all of these issues.
So do you want to go through?
How would you get this essential function?
Well, there's a number of ways. I mean, as Jacques pointed out earlier, from System Center and the Configuration Manager can assist you with that. You can deploy the service onto non-domain joined machines. You can also use a GPO. You can use, if there are any other package-based systems that you might use. I mean, there are customers that we know of that use things, or some flavors of systems like Ultras. I know that's a fairly outgoing sort of piece of software, but there's various ways. I mean, it can be a manual thing if it's a small environment. For someone such as UKZN, I mean, we just wrapped up the UKZN Office 365 project. And I mean, we assigned in excess of 90,000 licenses. So that is a very difficult conversation to have based on the scale and the volume that you have. So deployment across those kind of devices, it'll be some kind of delivery mechanism. But then again, I also know the licensing component of UKZN, and I know there's a lot of E1 there, and so a lot of campus agreements / educational licenses, which is limited in the use of EMS based on the fact that E1 doesn't give you access to Azure AD Premium. It gives you access to a different version of Azure AD. So your staff entitlement, which I believe is about 4,500, is most likely licensed for that, either by E3 or E4, if I remember something like that. So that reduces. Yeah, it could be. So that will reduce the effort considerably, but nonetheless, you're not limited to having to.
Devices and they have their own laptop.
Okay.
bring their own.
Yeah, so in that case, look,
If you
if
look at doesn't Windows Intune, does Windows Intune not allow you to be able to go and load a client?
yeah, you can do bulk installs, but the thing is, the cornerstone is the license. See, because the problem is Azure AD Premium has to be in place.
So we have to have it start.
Yeah, so again, that's why you'll be able to do it for staff but not for students, based on the license. But the short answer is there are multiple ways to deliver it.
So I just want to comment, how much time do we have? I've got about 40 more slides.
You've got about just over 10 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to just maybe go over a couple of slides.
Well, we covered that.
I'm moving on to 45.
No, it is. I'm not joking.
No, he wasn't joking.
You're between us and the bar, you know that.
Is it?
All right, let's talk about multi-factor authentication. I mean, that's a good one, as it sort of follows on from this conversation. So, I mean, depending on what you have, I mean, whether you've got a tablet, whether you've got a mobile phone, or some kind of device in between, there needs to be multiple levels of security. And this goes back to what I said earlier on about how do I identify you? Because the thing is, you know what it's like when a call center agent on the bank calls you. They ask you a million questions, they listen to the sound of your voice, they've never spoken to you before. They ask you some kind of security question, which if I'm a family member, likely I know the same. It's very easy to kind of, fake being somebody. Maybe you want to pull out a social engineering tactic of some sort and pretend that you're one person when you're actually not that person. So there needs to be a technology layer in between that question, whether you're interfacing with a digital system or whether you're interfacing with an individual. And you'll find the banks have started to do that now, where just recently I was on a plane to Durban, and in my infinite wisdom, I got up off the plane at the airport, got off, go fetch my baggage, and I had to pay for my rental car. I realized, oh goodness, I left my wallet on the plane. So obviously I ran back to try to find it. They didn't see it, and the plane was already shipped off back to Joburg. So I had to call my bank to cancel my cards. And then they sent me off into some kind of a digital response system, which was a way for me to go through a whole bunch of information to confirm that I am who I say I am. Now, take that concept and apply it to Azure and EMS. Now, the reason we're going to use Azure AD Premium, as I said, is for something known as password reset, self-service password reset. So what that allows you to do is, as a user, you have a portal available to you. You can then go there, you can say, well, I've lost my password, or I've forgotten my password, or my password has expired. Please change my password. Then, in a similar way as I was quizzed for all sorts of information on my phone, and I had to push buttons on my phone via a response that was sent to me, Microsoft will either send you an email to a secondary email that you will have set up beforehand, or a text message with a PIN code. And that process is known as multi-factor authentication. So we don't have one factor, which is just your password. We have another factor, a second factor. There are various iterations of this kind of technology available in the world today. We get 1.5 times authentication, 2 times authentication, all sorts of things. But generally, what we're talking about here is phone calls, text messages, and so on. It's nice to get a phone call from Microsoft. The lady that calls you is ever so friendly, very American. Asks you all sorts of questions. You answer the questions, and that helps you reset your password. So it removes that layer of burden, I suppose, if you want to call it that, from the help desk, having people call in from all over the user base, trying to constantly reset the password.
So how many password resets do you guys have on average?
Imagine a lot. It's usually quite a lot. What we found is, it's difficult to quantify, especially when you start talking money, but we have had customers that have built this feature, and their overall call count, their ticketing system, their help desk, has gone down by a considerable amount within the first couple of weeks of using it, because users become, as soon as they become au fait with familiar with doing self-service password reset, their metrics has kind of shrunk quite a lot, and the reporting on the kind of problems that they really deal with is much more aligned with what the expectations were. Because beforehand, they didn't really know that a large part of their help desk was just servicing passwords and so on. And arguably, it's not the best use for a help desk. So that outgoing picture that you saw over there was basically just a snapshot where Microsoft was trying to say, we do understand that we're not the only operating system from a mobile device point of view in the world today. We do play well with Apple iOS, Windows OS, obviously, and Android. So those are the three platforms that are supported. BlackBerry is unfortunately not supported, so if there are any BlackBerries in the business, that is just, throw it over your left shoulder and make a wish. But BlackBerry has now started installing Android on devices, and the BlackBerry 10 operating system is Android application aware. So whether or not the BlackBerry-based OS with Android-capable apps is going to allow you to install the Intune company portal or not, I mean, that's something to test. But the new BlackBerries all run Android. So because it runs Android, it doesn't really fall under the BlackBerry moniker anymore. It kind of follows along with what the Samsungs and the LGs and everyone else is running. So at least you have that management capability. Right.
So I just want to maybe quickly around RMS.
RMS. Okay.
As we've spoken about it, there's multiple ways of securing your documents and sharing these documents. One of the things that is available within this is obviously it integrates with an Office. One of the key things you would look at this here is you can't copy, you can't print, you can't forward. These are the kind of things that you want to secure your environment with. If you then go further, and we quickly spoke around Target, you will see if you're using Office 365, and once again, it plays very well with RMS, it looks at this and it looks at this view here and says, this is supposed to be secure information. You should not be able to take your credit card information and send it via email. So once again, this looks at the security and it's based on your policies that you set up, that it secures the information for you. So this is not just from an email perspective or from a file perspective. If you go one step further, it also looks at it from a SharePoint perspective that it integrates in.
Correct. Alright, now SharePoint has kind of become one of those learn to love, learn to hate it pieces of technology. It's very, very good for certain things. It's not so good for other things, and unfortunately, more you understand it really enables the business to be a very good product set for collaboration. And the way I use SharePoint within BUI is my customer documentation. I store on there. Not just that, I have the ability to go to my team members. And the fact that RMS can tie into this, and I can automatically apply those RMS security permission templates to any documents within RMS, gives my management peace of mind that when there's documents flying around the place, first of all, our document control is pretty good, but also the permissions apply to those documents. And I think, again, going back to what I said earlier, it just narrows the possibility that things can go wrong and that things can land up.
Sorry, just for me, and one other thing is nice is run RMS, because I get to use it personally, where I've sent an email out to the wrong people. Because again, it's that predictive thing. I supposed to send it to Gary, and I sent it to
you might have two Garys in your
Gary or something, yeah. And so after it's really gone, it's out of my mailbox. I can then set the right protection, the permissions for that email, and prevent that person, even though it's out of my mailbox already, to prevent that person actually accessing that data with what Office got. If they've already opened it, they've opened it, but after that, if they're connected, then once they get the message from both permission, it will stop them from being able to.
And also what you can do is you can put a time to live on a document. For instance, you can say this document, if you send it out by mail or you share it, you can say this document lives for a week that people have got access to it. But you can once again secure that. And then you can go back afterwards and see, well, how many views were there? people looking at this. You can look at user denied and the activity in the last couple of days around.
Yeah, so you can look at this as a level of personal intelligence. I know that the world is sort of recently woke up to business intelligence. So this is sort of, if you will, a version of business intelligence for the user. So you can then, as Glenda was saying, revoke access. I like to use the word mute. It sounds very odd. You can mute documents. I mean, you can, if you send the document out to completely the wrong person, group of people, you can go into that and revoke access, and then essentially that document becomes a digital paperweight or such a thing. It's just a space of data, and nobody can. It just becomes. So,
Good fun.
right.
For knowledge.
Should we cover this? Is there anything, or should we just go straight to the Easter egg? We like Easter eggs. We like Easter eggs. I've got one. Yes.
Back to that topic, does that apply only?
Excuse me? The RMS? No, it's not just SharePoint. So essentially, the way in which you'll use RMS, obviously Microsoft plays well with the document, the file types that it understands, i.e. the Office suite. So anything that's a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, or an Outlook mail message, it understands those file types innately, so it will be able to, without applying a wrapper around that kind of document, it can apply the level of security that you need based on what the RMS templates are set up for. But let's say you're sending me a PDF file. Now, PDF is an Adobe file type. It's not a Microsoft file type. That doesn't mean we don't know how to play with it. All that means is the way in which we encapsulate the file type to apply the same level of security is a little bit different. So in an example like that, if it's not a SharePoint-based thing, if I'm just sending you an email or you're sending me a PDF document, and you apply an RMS template to, let's say, like a business confidential, i.e., if you're within my email domain, you can read it. If not, it doesn't work for you. That PDF document will be wrapped, it will be put in a digital wrapper, and the permissions from a template perspective will be applied to that, so that when the user receives it, or when I receive the email, and I try to open it, a connection will be made to the RMS server, and permissions will be confirmed. Your identity will be confirmed, and if checks and balances are in place, we'll have access to the document. So that's kind of how it works, but the short answer is no, it's not limited to share.
It's just with the actual document itself. So wherever the document is, the permissions sit with the document, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. It doesn't matter what way.
See, the important thing to remember here is, you might look at it to the face and go, well, why is this technology relevant? It's relevant because of the fact that traditionally, 10, 15 years ago, once a document, like I said, leaves your infrastructure, that's it. You don't have control over that document. Whatever the recipient does with that document is entirely up to the person. Now, if you're sending out company confidential information, you're essentially relying on the trustworthiness and so on of the individual that's receiving that information to not go and do something that's sort of outside of the confines of what you'd expect an organization to have to deal with. So it's not to say that we're trying to big brother our people. It's not that. It's a way to own your data as a business, and ultimately as an employee, it's our responsibility to uphold those. I mean, that's usually what stands with the conditions. So again, it's just a way to really reduce the possibilities.
So just maybe up here, a comparison between Intune and Config Manager integrated with Intune. Once I think Jock has touched on this as well, and once again, we're happy to take it more in a deeper dive. Looking at that.
Yeah.
So Easter egg?
Yeah. Well, I like Easter egg. Okay, so that's why I call this an Easter egg. Now, the reason I call this an Easter egg is because it's the one thing in the EMS suite that a few people are aware of. Some of the larger organizations know about it, but it is a very prominent part of the Enterprise Mobility Suite, and it's called Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics. Now, every time I say that, I feel like I'm on a CIA stuff, CFC, like what?
List.
Yeah, the
CIA list.
Yeah, like I'm on some bloody security panel busy trying to explain to you how to unhack what was hacked. But the short of it is, Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics is an incredibly intelligent piece of technology. What they've been able to do is they've been able to design a system that does what we call behavioral analysis. Now, if I sit and watch you all day, every day, for 3 months, right, for 90 days, I'll have a pretty good idea of who you are, where you live, what time you get up, what time you get to the office, what time you leave, what time you log in, what time you log off,
Everything in between.
and everything in between. Not only that, I'll also be able to, at a distance, look at how many times you look at your mobile phone, update your email, you know, how many times you log into that server, how many times the printer in the corner connects to a print screen, or whatever the case might be. So this is essentially a technology layer that does exactly what I just explained. So you as an individual, as a digital entity within your enterprise domain, endpoints, so servers, networked devices, and ultimately your servers. Now all of those things can operate in ways that are either structurally autonomous, i.e. they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, or they stop doing what they're supposed to do. Now, Jacques also mentioned a little bit earlier on, you might have loads and loads of logs, and we don't really know in those logs what's happened. Now, advanced threat analytics is also a log-based machine or system, and it does take up the same kind of storage that most logging systems take up. But the upshot here is that if you are a server engineer and you have recently gotten married, okay? Now, you're on honeymoon in Japan with the wife or whatever your preference is, and you find a telephone call from the boss saying, the Exchange server has crashed. Please fix it now because we don't have access to Exchange, or whatever has crashed. Something's crashed. So now from your hotel room in Japan, you connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, you VPN into the office, you RDP into the server that has got the problem, and you start trying to fix the problem. Now, a system like this is going to pick up that this person is connecting and authenticating with that user address or that username. The authentication has been passed, but they're connecting from an IP address I'm not familiar with. They're connecting from a location I'm not familiar with. And because of the time difference, they're connecting at a time of the day that this user is never at the office. Because it sees that, well, you get to the office at 5 or 6 in the morning, you leave the office at 4 in the afternoon. My behavioral analysis doesn't tie up to the activity that's taking place, block it. And then you get kicked off the system, depending on how you configure it. I mean, you can configure it to allow and alert or completely block. And that's what advanced threat analytics is. And it kind of gives you operational insight into possible security threats. Now, if you consider the modern network as a bit of an insect, right? It's a hard, sort of seemingly impenetrable exoskeleton with a soft squishy center. Now, the soft squishy center is usually where things go wrong, right? And especially if you have individuals in a large IT team that have specific functions. This one logs into that server, this one logs into that server, you've got a dev team, you've got a QA team, you've got all sorts of things. Lots of people doing different things. Now, traditionally, we don't have visibility into that. And we have a squishy center that's kind of running rampant, doing the things that it needs to do for an overall success of the IT department. And this is going to give you all of that and more, not just from an internal support standpoint, but ultimately all of the users within the infrastructure. So, yeah, that's quite Easter eggish as far as I'm concerned. Any questions?
Is it just testing like login times and location?
No, it's quite broad.
See what people are browsing.
It's not really for the browsing. I think that's the kind of thing that you'll try and identify at firewall level, really. But the behavioral analysis, that kind of gives it away. It's user action. It's what the user does, i.e. logs into the system at that time, logs off of the system at that time, that kind of thing. And if you spread that across non-human endpoint, non-human like the server, or some kind of thing in the business that offers a service to the users. That's just, look, from an operational insight perspective, it gives you visibility into the activities of these things. Like, put it this way,
it's around prevention.
Yeah, if it has a heartbeat or an IP address, you want to know what it's doing, right? And ATA gives you that.
And I think you want to know it's behaviors and behaviors. So it's all of it most when this gets on to monitor, it will say, this is not an area, of this IP base, not alert you to say, it might be normal, because it might just change something, but then maybe a problem will alert you to say, this is going to check that out. It might be a problem. Or you really need to something.
And once again, this lives on-prem. So it lives in your Active Directory that this essentially lives in. And it gives you a lot more of a richer reporting that you can look at and take action.
Guys, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much for stepping in at the last minute.
No
Really,
problem.
really appreciate it. Hope Brian gets better. Guys, thank you.